This is lecture preparation for the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, November 15th, 2015. So this is the next to the last Sunday of the liturgical year. Next Sunday is Christ the King Sunday. Incidentally, so our first reading is from the book of Daniel, and next Sunday the same. And they're also talking about apocalyptic visions. So the first reading from Daniel, I'm gonna look first of all at the notes to the left of the reading. It said, read the introduction with awareness that the dramatic vision will continue. So when you read, in those days, I, Daniel, heard this word from the Lord. So you want to really set that up. And then you would read the next couple of sentences. It tells about the vision of Michael, and that there will be a great time of tribulation, or of distress, as he said. Talks about the then many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake. Some will live forever. Others will have everlasting honor and disgrace. You want to make sure that you contrast those two with your voice. So then he's talking about the resurrection of the dead, which at that time was a kind of a new concept. We kind of take it for granted, but the Jewish people did not look at things in that way. The author of the book advises you to look at the assembly as you announce the good news that the wise will live forever. So that one, all that you have read before gives information, but the point is, the wise shall shine brightly like the splendor of the firmament. So we are encouraging those who are listening to be wise people. As I mentioned, this is apocalyptic literature. I'm reading at the bottom now. Like all apocalyptic writings, this work seeks to give believers hope by looking forward to God's definitive intervention in human affairs. And it does describe the battle between good and evil. So this is the first reading. A reading from the book of the prophet Daniel. In those days, I, Daniel, heard this word of the Lord. At that time there shall arise Michael, the great prince, guardian of your people. It shall be a time unsurpassed in distress since nations began until that time. At that time your people shall escape, everyone who is found written in the book. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Some shall live forever. Others shall be an everlasting horror and disgrace. But the wise shall shine brightly like the splendor of the firmament, and those who lead the many to justice shall be like the stars forever. The word of the Lord. Turning the page, I'm on 290 in your workbook. To the left, keep in mind who really proclaims, and this is a excerpt from the general instructions of the Roman Missal. When you are reading, God is proclaiming, and I've said this many times, but you want to keep in mind it's not about you, but that God is proclaiming to His people through your voice whenever you read. Also, at the bottom, to the left on 290, another to keep in mind. You'll read more naturally if you read ideas rather than words, if you share images rather than sentences. So this requires you to do the preparation ahead of time, and this is what we're all about. So you want to be able to understand the thoughts or the ideas, and to create those pictures, those images. The second reading is the last of 6 consecutive weeks from the book of Hebrews. And again, Jesus is described as the final high priest. And today's reading makes evidence. Hebrews believes that the sacrifice of Christ, the high priest, fulfills the Jewish expectation of complete forgiveness and a new relationship with God in the dawning age of salvation. So let's get into this. A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, every priest stands daily at his ministry, offering frequently those same sacrifices that can never take away sins. But this one offered one sacrifice for sins, and took his seat forever at the right hand of God. Now he sits until his enemies are made his footstool. For by one offering he has made perfect forever those who are being consecrated. Where there is forgiveness of these, there is no longer offering for sin. The word of the Lord. A couple of notes on this. So when in the second full paragraph, when he says, this one, he's referring to Jesus. This one offered one sin for many's. And then in the last line, it says, where there is forgiveness of these is sins. It's referring to the sentence up above. Where there is forgiveness of these. So I think the best way to say that, as I just did, where there is forgiveness of these, and when you lower your voice like that, it makes it naturally is referring to what you have just said previously. Okay, so in the gospel reading, this is often called Mark's Apocalypse, and the apocalyptic vision is not only in the words but in the tone of your proclamation. The collapse of the moon and stars is meant to be arresting, even terrifying image. Don't weaken its power. So when that is read, make sure that you say it with a little bit of fear and trembling, if you will. Jesus uses the image he most often applied to himself, Son of Man, to introduce a ray of light. So after you've talked about this great tribulation, you're then, as he said, introducing a ray of light. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. So there's a big shift there. And then there's another shift. Then he begins teaching. He was telling a story, and then he's giving a teaching. Learn a lesson. And he talks about how we are to be aware of what is happening. Okay, so a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus said to his disciples, "In those days after the tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory, and then he will send out the angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the end of the sky." Learn a lesson from the fig tree. When its branch becomes tender and sprouts leaves, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see these things happening, know that he is near at the gates. Amen, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But of that day or hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. The Gospel of the Lord. Thank you again for your work as ministers of the Word. The books are supposed to be in this by no later than this Friday, so I should have them for you this weekend, but we still have one more week in this book before we get to the next one. God bless all of you.